Well, the top of the morning to you. Here it is on Easter Sunday. And of course, I thought it'd be an alright way to make a YouTube video here, smoking a joint in my kitchen, talking about the methods of control that are being used on everyone's minds. So overall, we've got these people on our social media, the blue check marks, if you will. And these are the people that generally have the official opinion, the official narrative. Their perspective on life has been approved by the establishment, and in return, they've received a blue check mark. Now, this is a very subtle system, but this is how the Chinese rolled out their social credit system. The foundations of a North American social credit system are already being built. And what I think a lot of North Americans don't appreciate that is on the back end of the social credit system in China is psychiatry and the psychiatric practice. And psychiatry is a tool of social control. I think, the best way I can explain what psychiatry does is we have free thoughts, right? And so let the whole frame, the whole screen represent like what is the attainable free thought, right? Well, what psychiatry does is it puts, an arbitrary limit on the free thought. And anything that's outside of those limits is what they call crazy. But all the thoughts that like crazy people think, they're thoughts that regular people can think too. That just, to the crazy person, it takes on an element of real that isn't necessarily there for the other person that's sane. Now, that being said, there are some things that are like, that, some crazy people believe in that are just, they're nuts. But there's other things that are actually legit things, like sometimes you hear like people talk about like being followed or the feeling of being surveilled. And that happens to a lot of people. There's like a widespread program that's being rolled out against the West, and part of how it works is this thing with these people that are targeted. And it's like, why are these people targeted? I would argue it's because they operate in a way that's kind of outside of the boundaries of this thing that they can control, this psychological grid that they control, and their personality and their psyche kind of falls outside of that. And so they want to study these people to find out how to control them. That's kind of how I think it works. It's all speculation, of course. I could be mistaken, but what I do know is that after I started doing a lot of organizing for the Occupy Wall Street thing, and after I started causing some shit online, I was subjected to a lot of foot surveillance, and then it freaks you out when you're getting surveilled a little bit, and then you get detained because you're a little bit like disturbed by what you're seeing, and then they just torture you in the thing, and they give you so many drugs that you can barely think clearly, and that you can barely remember what it was you were thinking about. That's part of why I gotta smoke weed, just to kind of keep myself together. because like the drugs that they give to people in these facilities, they work by blocking neurotransmitters in the brain, uh, which is basically a chemical lobotomy. So there's parts of my brain that have inevitably been damaged by the psychiatric drugs that I've been forced to take. And so by taking, bits of marijuana, I'm able to alter the set of, because, the way your brain works, right, is that you're kind of oscillating between any three given organs at a time. And there's 11 different kind of sub-resting states of the brain. This was all some research that was done at U of T. A friend of mine tells me about it. I like to keep my ear to the ground as far as certain subjects. But overall, like, the field of psychiatry is this tool of control, and it's used to make examples out of people that are different, and it's designed to torture people that are different for being different. And at the crux of the whole thing is, if you live in a country that claims to have the freedom of expression and the freedom of thought, then how do you actually have those things if the people that are the free thinkers and the people that are speaking about their different thinkings, if they're subjected to torture? Because that just puts everybody's like, whoa, you hear what happened to Thomas, man? Well, yeah, he talks about a whole bunch of crazy shit, though, so. But the crazy shit that I'm talking about is really happening, And that's the thing, is like, we can all, I think, resurrect the West, and we can do that by reconciling ourselves to the realities that we face. And that, like, we have a system of government that engages in widespread mind control, torture, and we have a controlled political system that prevents us from expressing things that we really want to express. Like recently, a poll came out that said 42% of Canadians were opposed to immigration. 42%. That's a bigger majority than any government in history. So maybe it's time we think about that. Maybe it's time we start thinking about bringing back our Canada, from Nova Scotia to BC, and Newfoundland can come late to the party as always, eh? All right, you guys have yourself a happy Sunday. God bless, and stay